Hey, what's up, everyone? It's good to be back. Back at home for just Christmas break, and today we're gonna be talking about the knife that could kill off the BRS Rep. And I say that in like a loose sense. The Rep really isn't going anywhere. I mean, there's so many of them; they're just readily available, and this thing though is a very, very good competitor. And we are going to be talking about the EPS Knives G10 Wraith, which I was able to snag on that most recent drop. It happened the Thursday and Friday before Christmas. And man, this thing is sweet. Um, I still have the latch on and all that, so I haven't put too many miles on it, but I have handled these a lot. I'm good buddies with Eric, the guy who makes this knife, and it just, man, I've been waiting so long for one of these things. I'd say almost a year and a half or so, maybe a little longer. And I'm so happy that they actually finally came out for once, because I was talking to him. He came over here, I want to say December of 21. No. Yeah, December of 21. And he had his protos. And I was like, let me get one. I don't care, dude. Sell me one. And he's like, I can't, I have to meet a quota, blah, 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 blah. And then I saw him last August or September, and I was still trying to ask him about getting me one of these. Every time I talk to him, it's like, hey, dude, give me a Wraith. I guess to start this here, this is exactly how you get it out of the packaging. There is a box that goes over this, but I just didn't bring the box out here. It's just a white box, says EPS Knives on it. You open it up, and then on the inside fold that sits over the package, not the one that fully curls around, but you open it up and it says G10 Wraith. But let's get to taking this latch off. Now, I know there were a lot of people, actually, spoiler alert, I already took the latch off and then put it back on just for this video, but a lot of people got these off really easily. I actually had a problem with mine, and I think specifically mine, or very few. These are all done by one guy. So, he pumped out over 100 of them over a year. So they're not perfect. Like, there is a little bit off here and there, but nowhere near what you'd see with reps. The bushings on these are amazing, or better than average. Not even better. Better than average sells it short. It sounds like a mean thing to say. They are like on the tier list. You're not getting like, hey, I spent $2,000 on this custom, and the dude spent 3 hours making sure everything was perfect. But they're up there. My safe handle bushing is the smallest bit undersized, which is the only reason I say that. That being said, it's like, you can't just like crank the crap out of it. It's like you have to crank it and then you just back off a wee bit and then it's perfect. Which for all of his knives, I have not seen any complaints about bushings online yet. That is very impressive, because bushings are normally where a lot of knives fall short, especially where BRS has some issues. They've started getting better with their more recent drops, but they still aren't perfect. Pound that out. And the reason I say the fit and finish is a little bit off is my pin for the latch is just an 1/8-inch pin that sits in a hole, but it's like press fit into one of the holes where it just wasn't quite right. So I have to punch out the pins to, take this apart, because these do not want to move. And I have to get them to move so I can pull the slab off. Or not the slab, the liner. Silly me. But yeah, here's our spacer. These are kind of interesting. What I'm thinking, I'm sure I could confirm this with him, and it's probably what it is, but the little notch that's cut into them is probably to provide some tension that allows the latch to swing back and forth but have resistance, so it acts like a spring. And then opening this up, you see what I mean? The pin just does not fall out or nothing. I can take a bit to it and press up against it, and maybe it'll pop out just to make me look stupid on video, and I'm like pressing on it pretty good, and it does not want to move. Put this right back. And I mean, it's not the worst because I know where the pin is at all times in the event that I decide to put the latch back on, which, you know, who does that? Put this bad boy right back together. But this here is the G10 Wraith. I've also owned his first drop of the Atlas Mid-Tech. Those were a market, I don't want to say fail, but they sold. But a lot of the owners weren't super happy with them, and I don't blame them. The bushings on those were spectacular, because Eric put a lot of time into those, and I mean, he manufactured a ton of that. And it was just like, they were just wonky for balance. They were wonky for balance. They're a little thin. Like they were really, really, really blade heavy, despite being super duper light. Or I say blade heavy, man, super duper handle heavy, despite being really light. And then that mixed with the lightness of it and the thinness, it just made kind of a funky knife, which I will say is not at all bad for a first knife. I mean, that is, especially for your first ever production that you're selling. I mean, that's, if it's a little off, but all of your manufacturing is there, I mean, who cares? And it definitely shows the market your potential, which is a huge thing, because I know I've been waiting forever for this. I've been to a couple of meetups where I've had Eric's knives with me, and people are wondering, you know, when are they coming out? When are they coming out? And then these are also made at the same price point as the Rep. They're about $280. Ending with shipping and tax, I live in Illinois. It to my door cost me $303. $304 if you round up with all the change, but they are really not super pricey, and they are very nice knives for the money. I know there's a lot of Chinese manufacturers that are out there now, and you know, for $100 you can get titanium, but they just aren't the same. Especially with finding hardware, and then the bushings in those are almost always bad, and then there's no real good way to tune them because there is no way to get new bushings. So if they're undersized and they don't supply you extras, then you're kind of just boned. This is what I'm talking about for my bushing. So I've put a good bit of tension on it. It's a little stiff. I expect that to fully go away once I've, you know, put some hours on this, but fully tighten it down and then back off just a hair, and there we go. She's looking good. I'm gonna grab a paper towel real quick. My Zen cups are all full of lube, which go figure. I was trying to figure out earlier today why I wasn't so bouncy on the inside, and then you take a look at that. It makes a lot of sense. I did put blue lube in mine. I know people are swapping over to carbon honey and Canto oil and all this other stuff, and I just like blue lube. I mean, it's cheap. There's no drama around it like you had with KPL, and it's just, I don't know, it's a good mid-tier oil. Going on to how this thing sounds. That's closed. Definitely not the highlight, but now, sure, you're not getting that like crispy ping of titanium. The Reps, I would say, are a little more on the crispy side. A crispy ping. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a harmony where it's like a tuning fork with titanium. This definitely has that G10 kind of crunch, if that makes any sense, where the Rep has a similar noise. Let's see if I have a, this Rep will work. My Rep is definitely louder. But, you know, it's on point for the money. It really is. Going on to, let's get some measurements going on this bad boy. Pull out the scale. Latch over there. All right, got it zeroed. This is coming in, we don't need grams. We need ounces. Coming in without the latch, this is sitting at 4.185, which is on the lighter side. Once you break below 4, I don't really touch that stuff a ton. It's just not my cup of tea. I want a little bit of heft in my knife. I really do enjoy some of the heavier stuff. With the latch, we're talking 4.261 ounces. Really not a whole ton different. You can totally flip this knife with the latch on, apart from choker fans. The latch sticking out straight, because it's not like a Ham design where it just slides in and tucks away. It sticks out straight up, and because of that springiness of the spacer, it literally holds itself straight out, and you just I can't get my fingers around it quite right. Now, I mentioned that this could be, the Rep killer. This is a V1 Rep. I don't have a stock, like, newer one. They've just never, I don't know, every time I buy one, I swap out a ton of parts. It does have an alt blade on it, which is cursed because, never made them like that. But the reason I say this here could be the potential Rep killer is dealing with Eric is like the best thing ever. I mean, the dude knows his stuff. I've had, BRS, hey, you have an issue with your hardware? Here, just check out this forum, don't message us with this. It seems like they're detached from their stuff. Eric gets back to you. He knows exactly what he's talking about. I mean, he designed the entire knife. He knows the ins and out of everything. And the reason I say it could be, but probably won't be, is due to supply. This, took him a year to pump out 100 and some of these. BRS pumps out who knows how many reps a year. It's probably a good, 100, but it's been continuous over and over and over again. I am not sure when Eric's going to be dropping more of these, or if he's probably already swapping over to a new design to manufacture. So it's just a time thing. He can't pump out as much as BRS can, which is totally reasonable. He's one guy. Some other specs. Let's see here. I started talking about specs and then immediately started ranting about something else. But get my calipers here zeroed. We are reading for the height 5.32. And then for the width, it's coming in at the widest 5.41. I'm trying to think what's the most comparable thing. I think this turbo rep is basically rep dimension. It's pretty close. We'll just say that. I'm sure I have another video where I go over and measure everything, but this one here for reference is 4.75 high by 5.37 wide. It's kind of a reference point. This knife really doesn't feel that tall. And I think that's, did I even measure this right? Man. So he has a taper right here. Let me just double check that I didn't measure it wrong. The highest point. Yeah, 5.29. I said 5.31, 5.32 first time. So somewhere around there. So it's really not too far off from a standard rep if we're using this tie rep as a demonstration of a standard. This knife does feel a little thin. Some hardware specs, it uses 20 thou washers, the standard 250 OD by 3/16 ID bushing. The blade thickness is, we are getting 125, so 1/8 inch, just like a rep. The Zen pins, I was told by Eric, are basically rep Zens, but he shaved down the shoulders a little bit. And then, there's not too much more to talk about. It has tie liners, G10 scales, tie spacers, T8 screws for the small stuff, T10 for the larger stuff, 6x32 for the pivot screws, 2x56 for the smaller screws. The one thing I will say that I found kind of interesting was the screw length. If those of you who have disassembled a Rep or taken any kind of body hardware off, I mean, that's a tiny, tiny little screw, and it is really short. But it's not a huge deterrent for me at all. And I think he could have gone a little bit longer on him, but I think this is a size that he probably got that was already made and then just rolled with it instead of having a custom order them, which is totally reasonable. But what is the balance like? If we put it on my finger, you can see it rests about there in the handle. It does feel like you have weight like all the way throughout the blade, and then you totally feel the spacers. It's really hard to flip underneath my camera setup here. But I really like the Wraith. I'm so happy I finally got my hands on one. I should have mentioned, this is the Ghost Black one, and they probably will never be manufactured again, at least looking like this. The G10, when I was talking with Eric, they poured way too much of the clear part and not a whole ton of the black. It's supposed to be like a see-through black layer kind of thing, and they messed up giving it this kind of interesting color. The edge on this is insane. It's very sharp. I messed up a hair back when I was at my house, and it gave me a little cut. So it certainly does have an edge out of the box. Shaving wise, let's see. Yeah, she shaves. Got my hair on there. So that is pretty nice for a knife of 280. I know BRS has had some issues with their edges. I have not seen, again, these have only been out for a couple of days, or arriving for a couple of days, but I have not seen anyone really complain about these or have anything that they've found wrong on them, which is a huge, thumbs up from me, especially if, I can't see anyone who's found any flaws. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'll try and get back to you. And that's all I got for today. I feel average YouTube outro moment here, but if you liked it, like the video. If you want to see more like this, I have a couple other videos going over like a solo Monarch, I don't know, some other stuff like that. But yeah, if you want to give me a like and a subscribe, be greatly appreciated. I do read my comments and answer them. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them there. I already said that. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next video.